Welcome to another episode of Becca's Talking, where every Tuesday at 10 a.m. a new podcast comes up, and you can always go back and check out all the archives of other great podcasts we've had. But every week we talk to somebody interesting, somebody with a story to tell, somebody that has got something involved in the Omaha community, in the Midwest community, and something that I think will benefit a lot of people. I'm interested in this podcast here because Ryan Osentowski is my guest, and I'm going to be talking to him in a second. Interesting way in how we first met, and I'll get into all that in a second. But first I want to talk to you about Havana Garage. Havana Garage in the Old Market. You know where the Havana Garage is. You know, I was thinking about this. You know, so many hospitality establishments go out of business after a year, 2, 3, 4 years. Havana Garage has been there for a long time. Why? Because they got great product, a wonderful selection of whiskeys, great selection of cocktails, great selection of cigars, wonderful atmosphere. You know, you got the leather chairs, you got the Rat Pack kind of a motif going on back there, and you don't have to be a cigar smoker to enjoy Havana Garage. Although even if you're not a cigar smoker, you'll love the aroma. But if you are a cigar smoker, you got to go and check out their humidor. They got a great humidor there with a wide selection of, no matter what type of cigar you're looking for, they've got it there at Havana Garage. Havana Garage is a great place for an after-work happy hour, great place to stop by if you got an event going at the CHI Center or the Holland or the Orpheum or some other downtown event. A great place to take a client if you're looking for still a big business deal. Check it out, Havana Garage in the Old Market. Tell them you heard about it on the Becca's Talking podcast. I would be greatly appreciative. Okay, so I mentioned I met Ryan here. Ryan Osentowski. I met him about a year and a half ago, we figured?
We're figuring maybe a year and a half ago.
Okay, yeah. So here's the situation, okay? I lost a job at Fox 42. Didn't have the podcast thing lined up yet, didn't have other things lined up yet. I was doing some real estate, but I was, basically bored. So I went and I got a job as an Uber driver. I was an Uber driver for about 3 or 4 or 5 months. About 3 or 4 months, I was an Uber driver. And one day, I go and I pick up this gentleman right here, and we start talking, and he recognizes my voice.
I said, "You sound like Tom Becca. Are you actually Tom Becca?" It's like, wow.
I said, "Who wants to know?" And if you haven't been able to tell, and those of you that are just listening and not seeing the video, Ryan is blind. Is blind the right term, or is
Yes.
it like unsighted? Do
Yes.
I have to
No. Oh, my God,
some
no.
PC thing or something?
No, Tom, I'm glad you brought this up first because so many people are scared of the word blind, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Blindness is never looked upon favorably historically, sociologically, and now with the crazy PC culture, it's now called woke, there's all kinds of questions as to what to refer to somebody as, and blindness is perfectly respectable. It's not something that anybody wants to be, but the fact is I am blind. There's nothing wrong with it. I have to do things a little bit differently, and it's totally okay to call me blind.
Okay.
It's a cool term.
All right. Well, I'll try a Ryan, but if that's okay with
cool.
you.
That's cool.
So anyway, and where I took Ryan on my Uber drive, I took him to Radio Talking Book, where you are what's your official program director?
I'm the program director.
A Radio Talking Book.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about what just Radio Talking Book is and why it's important for people like Ryan and others who are blind. But so we started talking, and the more we talked, understood that we had a lot of mutual friends and acquaintances, and that Cammie, who's the manager there.
Yeah, Cammie Carlisle is our communications director.
Yeah.
She was supposed to be here today, but she had a medical obligation, so I'll get you for this, Cammie.
So we got
Revenge
Ryan,
is
so we
sweet.
got the 18-minute instead. And Cammie and I actually worked together back at KFAB back in the day.
Yep.
But anyway, so through that, and then I've done some volunteer work for Radio Talking Book, minimal amount, to be honest with you, but I have done a little volunteer work for them.
Now you got a lot going on, Tom.
You know, and so I got to know Ryan and everybody there, and we're doing the podcast. I said, I think people would be interested to know that there is a thing still in this day and age called Radio Talking Book, because I know like 15 years ago or so, I saw the reason for it. But now I'm wondering, with all the new technology in that, is there still a need for Radio Talking Book? And I guess maybe start off with the question by asking, what is Radio Talking Book?
So Radio Talking Book is what we call a radio reading service. It is a program that reads newspapers and magazines for people who are blind and visually impaired. And your question is a very fair one, given the changing face of technology. It definitely, there was a need for it back when we started in 1974. So we're 50 years old this year, which is one of the reasons that I'm here. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary at a gala at the Benson Theater last month, and it was wonderful. But probably about 10 years ago, a lot of the people in this industry started asking, are we still going to be relevant? And the fact is we are, because the fastest growing population that is becoming blind or low vision are those who are senior citizens. And even though a lot of young people now have alternative sources for newspapers, magazines, the Omaha World Herald has a lot of competition both locally and nationally, there's still a lot of people that want to know what's going on in your local newspapers especially, as well as state newspapers and a lot of national papers like the New York Times and the Washington Post. There's also a lot of new digital sources that spring up. For instance, the Nebraska Examiner, the Flatwater Free Press are just two examples. But the fact is that you have to use computers to get to them. And there's a lot of older people who lose their sight later in life, and they struggle a little bit with technology. It doesn't mean they're stupid. It just means that they struggle. A lot of people struggle with technology. And it's a lot easier for them to turn on a radio or speak to an Alexa smart speaker to get us up and playing, and we'll read it for them. So there's definitely still a relevance to it.
So basically, like when I volunteered, and you work with a lot of volunteers, correct?
Oh, yeah. We have about 85 active volunteers at this point.
What they do is they'll go in and they will get magazines, newspapers, articles, and they will read it for about a half hour or so. Each program is about a half hour or so in length.
Well, it varies. A lot of them, like the Times you read, it was for a half hour, and we just had you pick a magazine off the rack. We have everything from a wide variety of magazines, everything from National Geographic to National Review. We have a gentleman that likes to read from Smithsonian, Time Magazine, The Week, et cetera, et cetera. But our main focus is local and state and regional stuff. And the people that read for us dedicate themselves weekly, on a weekly basis, to reading newspapers. We have a 2-hour live program that we run every day from 10 to noon. It's the only live content that we have. And we read the Omaha World Herald and the Lincoln Journal-Star simultaneously. There's two people in there. They kind of ping-pong back and forth. We cover the rest of the state, everywhere from Scotts Bluff to Council Bluffs. We read the Norfolk paper, Columbus. We read the Sioux City paper, and all the way out to Kearney, North Platte, and all them. And then we've just added, about a year and a half, we added a Southeast paper region, including Beatrice, Nebraska City, Falls City, and we're looking to expand even further on that. And all those people that read those are committed. They have to come in once a week, unlike people like yourself that can come in whenever they feel like it and just read a magazine. We also have a lot of special interest programs. We have something, for instance, called What's Cooking, where a lady comes in and strings together recipes. She usually makes a theme out of it, and she'll read from different recipe magazines. We have Science and the Environment. We have Trips and Travel, where we read from Travel and Leisure. We have Consumer Reports, Home and Garden. So it's a lot of hobby-based or special interest-based things. My favorite is Pet Paws, which focuses on different magazines like Catster and Dogster that are cat and dog focused, obviously. So, and then of course we also have the Veterans Hour, and which we're very proud of, that airs on the weekends, and that's dedicated to publications for our men and women who have served, such as Military Times, and we have some newsletters from various things like the Air Pulse from Offutt Air Force Base.
Now, Radio Talking Book is a subscription service, right?
Correct.
I can't just get it on a radio at home or get it online.
It's not like listening to KFAB or KGOR. It's not like your terrestrial radio. You have to have a special receiver to get it. You have to be blind or low vision or otherwise reading impaired. And that's something I want to stress. When you are blind or low vision, obviously you're print impaired, which means you can't read, but also someone who is dyslexic would qualify for our service. Someone with perhaps a different disorder that would prevent them from reading. They can see perfectly, but they just can't read. That would also qualify them as well.
So somebody who is basically illiterate.
Yes. Well, if they're illiterate, but like if they haven't just learned to read, they wouldn't qualify. They have to have some kind of medical preventative that keeps them from reading.
Let me ask you, and if you don't feel comfortable talking about any of this stuff.
Absolutely. Yes.
Just let me know. But were you born blind?
I was.
You were born blind?
Yes. That's another thing I'm very comfortable talking about it. The only way we're going to learn is if people ask us questions. So ask whatever you want.
Okay, do people feel weird asking you questions? Do they treat you different? I mean,
yes.
I assume they treat you differently because you're blind.
Yes, they do. They totally do. Blindness is, I think it's one of the things that scares people the most. Studies have borne that out. That people say on average, and I can't name the study, but you can find it, people are more scared of going blind than they are of getting cancer. And that really says something. And one of the things I try to do, and it's wonderful working at Radio Talking Book, is to show people blindness, yes, it's a challenge. I'm not going to lie to you. Like getting up here today, man, I took an Uber over here. It was not Tom Becca driving. It was some gentleman that there was a bit of a language barrier. We wondered if we were at the right place. And then just finding the door and coming up here. But it is very doable with some skills training, which I got from the Nebraska Center for the Blind, which they just turned 50 this year as well. And with a lot of changing technology that makes it so much easier to operate as a blind person than it did before. You can make it. But yes, people are very nervous whenever I come around because they're kind of scared. They wonder, could this happen to me? They wonder, how do I interact with this guy? And it's a little awkward. Once you get used to it, I mean, Cammie, to my knowledge, had never met a blind person. Neither had Becca. Jane, our former director, her son was blind, and he went to work at Outlook. So she had some familiarity when I came in, but it's just a matter of getting used to it and becoming comfortable to ask questions.
Actually, I had worked with a few blind people in my early days in radio. They were going to broadcast school to learn how to do radio and
Yep.
that, and they were able to do announcing and the like
Yep.
as a blind person.
Ironically, it was easier in the old days to break into radio when you're a blind guy, Tom, because you had a lot of stuff that you could operate with your hands, reel-to-reel machines and tape decks, carts, things like that were easy, that they had push buttons on them. Now everything is software, it's touchscreen, and a lot of it's inaccessible. I actually went to broadcast school in Denver about 15 years ago, and it was all hunky-dory until it was time to get an internship, and then it just door after door got slammed in my face because I couldn't use any of the software that they had. So it's frustrating. It's ironic. In some ways, technology has made us more liberated, and in others, it's made life worse for us. So it's
I would also say that it's tougher to get into radio today now than it was back then.
Yeah,
anyway.
totally.
So, yeah.
One thing I'll mention to you, and you've toured our studios, we have a giant soundboard in the control room that we use to broadcast our programming. And it's an old-style board that has a bunch of knobs and push buttons and slide switches on it because most modern boards are touchscreen and they're computer operated. It's very hard for a blind person to find that accessible. So Radio Talking Book bought us a board that we could use for those of us that are blind. But it's kind of obsolete, man. It's Cammie walked in one day and just said, "Man, this on her when we had her for her interview," and she said, "This looks like it's out of the '70s." So that's just the reality of what we live with as blind people.
You say people fear blindness more than cancer. I never thought of it that way, but as a cancer survivor, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Because you know what I mean? When I got cancer, I was like, okay, fine, how do we fix this?
Yep.
As opposed to you're going blind and it's like, oh my God, no, what do I do?
There's a lot of people out there, and I appreciate the candor. There's a lot of people out there that feel that way, and I've got some people on Facebook right now, and I've known people all my life that are constantly going to doctors. They're constantly getting surgeries. They're constantly either taking holistic or prescribed medications to make their vision better when they're told that they could lose their vision. And they spend so much time and effort trying to save their vision instead of learning to live with the limited amount of vision or the no vision. And there are ways around that. It's a matter of attitude. But the first thing is just to become educated. So,
well, okay, so now you've dealt with this your entire life, and so I imagine you're
absolutely.
You're also, I would imagine, rather proficient in reading Braille.
Yep.
And that. Some things I found amusing as a sighted person, and maybe you don't find so funny, but when, like if you go to the drive-up at the ATM machine at the bank, there is a Braille. There is
Yep.
Braille there at the ATM machine at the bank.
There is.
On the driver's side.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's one of those things that's kind of feel good. You were seeing Braille on ATMs in the 90s. I remember I was somewhere running around in downtown Lincoln when I was in college. And there was Braille suddenly on an ATM. I'm like, how the hell am I going to use this? And once ATMs started talking, that was the real thing that made a difference. Because Braille doesn't matter. It's one of those feel-good measures that a lot of companies like to put. Oh, we have Braille on our elevators. We have Braille on our restroom doors. What more do we need to do? And they think that they've made a great change. And in the case of ATMs, All Braille did was just put Braille on the keyboard. But once it started speaking and I could plug my earphones into it and use the ATM, it was amazing. And of course, now ATMs kind of feel like they're obsolete in the world of online banking and stuff like that.
Well, you mentioned you're on Facebook and everything.
Yep.
Is there special software for blind people for Facebook and
No.
like Drudge Report or any of the other websites?
All of those things have apps. And I use an iPhone, and this is one of the things I'll tell you. The iPhone was really revolutionary in many ways, Tom, because when I was using my iPhone, before that I was using a big old Motorola Q cell phone that we had to buy a $700 piece of software to make it talk, and that's kind of been the lives of blind people. Whenever we use computers or phones or technology, a lot of times we have to pay for extra software to make it accessible. And the iPhone integrated VoiceOver from the start. So if you were to use an iPhone, yours has VoiceOver on it. Every single iPhone has VoiceOver. You can take it out of the box and you can set it up. Once that became a reality, we started using apps, a lot of apps, the same way that you guys did. I have a Facebook app. I have an X app, which used to be Twitter. I have Apple Music. I used Uber and Uber to get over here. The problem is that some apps will upgrade and they'll become inaccessible because suddenly their software doesn't play well with VoiceOver. Pandora is a good example. I used to love Pandora. It became so cluttered and it became hard to push the buttons when I had my VoiceOver turned on. So it's frustrating as heck.
Okay, so that goes back to my earlier question about if you have this type of software and the iPhone, where does the Radio Talking Book fit into all of this? Radio Talking Book is available. You can hear us in several different ways. You can listen online. You can go to our website. That's www.rtbs, that's radiotalkingbookservice.org. There's a listen live link. You can hear us at blind people use something on the iPhone called a Ciro, which is an app made specifically for the blind, and it aggregates all kinds of different things you can listen to. Radio reading services are part of that, and we stream on there. One of the things we're excited about, we just got, maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years, we got a special skill for Alexa. And so once we'll give our listeners Alexas, and then they can set it up. We help them set it up, and then they can turn on the skill. They can listen that way. We have a stream you can listen to. We also have podcasts on demand, so you can listen that way as well. So there's all kinds of different ways to listen to Radio Talking Book now. How is Radio Talking Book funded? We're donor-driven. We use grants, and we have individual donations. Decades ago, we used to get state money, but that stopped in 2006. So we're completely privately, independently funded, again, with donor money. And I imagine that probably isn't cheap to run an operation like yours. No, it's not, although we have a much smaller budget than a lot of other places that you would think of. But no, there's only 3 or 4 of us that are staff, 5 if you can count the gentlemen on the weekends, and everybody else that works for us or with us are volunteers. So all of these people that come in and read, we have a lady that does not like to read. She's terrified of the microphone. We call her Queenie, but she comes in and she does all kinds of administrative stuff. She works with our database. We have people that drive on occasion for us. So a lot of the way that we work is on goodwill. And I got to tell you, I've been kind of cynical, especially in the realm of politics and everything. But man, I go to work every day, and we have nothing but goodwill volunteers with good intentions that help us out. So it's kind of restored my faith in human nature. If somebody wants to volunteer, how do they go about doing it? So they can go to our website. Again, that's www.rtbs.org, and there's a volunteer application right there. All you got to do is fill it out and send it into Cammie, and she will communicate with you by email, and we'll set up an audition. We have people come in and audition read for us. It's just a 15-minute, probably I'd say 45-minute total between it. We give them a tour, give them a little spiel about what we're about, and then we have them read for a 15-minute audition. And if they pass, then they start any time. And that website, again, is rtbs.org. Correct. RadioTalkingBookServices.org. Yep. Okay, so getting back to your life as a blind person, what do you do for fun? I mean, I'm going to be honest and really probably politically incorrect here. I just have this image of just basically people like yourself just staying home in a dark room, listening to the radio, listening to, do you get out? Do you do things?
What do I do for fun that I can talk about on this podcast is, well, I'll tell you, I mean, there are some blind people that live like that, and I'm probably less social than I used to be. I would say that I spend more time than I should at home, but there's and I have a cat. She's my companion, so I just got to tell you. A lot of people assume that I'm a blind guy. I have a dog, and there's a lot of blind people with dogs out there, but I'm a cat lover. I love my kitty. But we live just as anybody else lives. I like to go out and socialize with my friends. We have a little group we call the Margarita Club, and about once, twice a month we get together, and a lot of times at Fernando's or other Mexican restaurants, and we have margaritas. There's another group I get together with. We go to dinner at different restaurants every month. And let me bring this back to Radio Talking Book by saying one of the things we've started doing again after years of not having it, we audio describe theater plays. So now I like to go occasionally to the play at a theater. Not every single one. Some of them are crazy. But, we go to sporting events. I got a friend who's a huge Cubs fan. A lot of us are big Red fans. A lot of us like to go out and socialize, just hang out at a coffee shop. And we do stuff. There are some people, again, that perhaps aren't as trained as much in blind skills, and they'll spend a little more time at home. But you'll see, if you look around the city, if you look around Omaha and Lincoln, you'll see blind people out and about, and they're doing stuff, whether it's just exercising or hanging out. So
now, okay, you say like go to a sporting event,
yep.
Whether it be a baseball game or a Husker game or something like that. Although you can't see the action on the field, do you just like enjoy the energy level in the stadium?
Yep. For me, a lot of it's about having a hot dog and a beer. There's nothing like a hot dog and a beer at a baseball stadium.
Agree with you there.
There's nothing like smoking a cigar. By the way, your Havana Garage commercial just made me want to just have a cigar right here in front of you, Tom. But I'm sure. But thank you for reminding me that exists. I love smoking a good cigar outdoors.
Since you brought that up, let me do another quick plug for
Havana sure. Go for it.
Havana Garage here or there, the old market. Whether you do enjoy a good cigar or a good cocktail. Now, you don't have to, matter of fact, you don't have to be a cigar smoker or a drinker for that matter to enjoy the camaraderie, to enjoy the atmosphere, to enjoy the people there. So go and when the weather's nice, there's a patio outside. You go and they have live music on some nights, and it's just, like I said, it's a unique place to Omaha, and one of the things that make Omaha such a cool place to live. Stop on by, whether it be for a happy hour or an event or maybe just a nice dinner. Maybe you're doing a big anniversary dinner or some other celebratory dinner down the old market. Make the Havana Garage one of your stops. Havana Garage in the old market, and who knows, good chance you might see me or Ryan there.
Cigars. Yeah.
Okay, so what else do you want people to know about not only Radio Talking Book, but about just blind people in general?
Well, getting back to your sporting question, so a lot of us, when we go to baseball games in particular, I lived in Denver for 10 years, and we went to our share of Rockies games and got depressed and wanted to drink after most Rockies games, so we lost. But we'll take a radio with us. We'll take standard AM transistor radio, or now you can get it online. And so in one ear, I'll listen to the action as broadcast by the radio guys, and in the other, you'll talk to your friends or hang out. A lot of it's just about the social aspects. It's about the camaraderie of it. So it's fun. Sometimes getting into those bleachers way up in the stadium can be a little rough because they're so packed, and especially when you're a big dude like I am, it's just like, God, they don't make these chairs for fat guys. But that's nothing to do with blindness. That's just I need to get on the treadmill or something. But no, a lot of blind people are not homebodies. I tend to be a little more now because I'm more mellow. I'm pushing 50, and I'm just like, I just want to chill. But a lot of my young friends, they love to go out and party. So.
But, I think after COVID, I think a lot of us became less social.
You're bringing up a great point. COVID changed a lot for everybody. The world is much more online, I think, than it was even 5 years ago.
You talk about listening to a baseball game on the radio. I'm a Cleveland Guardians fan. I know it still hurts. Damn Yankees.
You poor sucker.
But a lot of the games during the playoffs, I would listen to the online feed.
Yep.
Because I enjoyed listening to the play-by-play more than I enjoyed watching it on TV.
There is nothing like listening to a baseball game on the radio.
I agree.
Or football, for that matter. Radio, I love radio. It paints such a picture, and nobody has ever mastered that. Television, I mean, they can try, and I get it, man. Sighted people love to watch stuff on TV and stream it online, but there is nothing like radio for painting word pictures of things. So.
Okay, so anything else we need to know about Radio Talking Book or about, just how to deal with people such as yourself, blind people in general?
Yeah, well, so I want to make sure I mention to you, Tom, we're having our 50 for 50 drive right now. I mentioned we're donor-driven, and because we're 50 years old, we're having a goal of $50,000 we'd like to raise by the end of the year. We are well on our way to it. We've made wonderful progress, including a great match we had in September. But we're not there yet, and so if people would like to donate to Radio Talking Book, again, we are nonprofit. We're tax deductible. We're a 501c3 company. And you can find more information about that at www.rtbs.org. Or you can call us at our radio station. Our phone number's on the website. And you can donate to us if you would like to, if you feel that we are worthy. We are thankful for every dollar that we get for our 50 for 50 fund drive.
Okay, and the website again, rtbs.org.
rtbs.org.
And that's to donate, it's to volunteer, it's you can listen online,
everything,
right?
Everything is there. Our podcasts are there, staff directory, great pictures of Cammie probably out picking stuff out of her garden. We got all kinds of stuff.
It's a great organization with a lot of wonderful volunteers and good people there that is serving a population that needs the help.
We do indeed. And Tom, I know you've only been in a few times, but any time you give us is appreciated, and we thank you for the time that you have given us and for giving us exposure here on your podcast.
Well, I believe in what you guys are doing, and like I said, I know that you and Cammie and everybody there are good people, and I learned an awful lot from our conversations, and learned a lot today too about just in general. Yep. I mean, because we've seen blind people in that at a restaurant or whatever, but you don't tend to interact with them.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes there's a little fear, and it's okay to walk up. The one thing I'll mention is kind of an education tool. It's okay to ask a blind person if they look lost, which happens a lot. It's okay to ask, do you need assistance? But use your words, not your hands. That's kind of one of my rules. Don't just walk up and grab them. A lot of people just tend to do that. I think it's okay to grab some blind person, but think of it from our perspective. If a stranger walked up out of nowhere and grabbed you, how would you feel? And I appreciate that your intentions are good, but just use your words instead. Just say, hey, you okay? Can I help you? Do you need directions? Anything like that is okay.
You mentioned that you don't have a dog, right?
I don't. My cat won't permit it.
But you basically get along with the cane, right?
I do. I love my cane. It tells me a lot about my environment. I have nothing against people that use guide dogs. I love dogs. I love animals. The older I get, the more I love animals. But for me, a cane is what I prefer because it gives me more feedback for my environment. The tap of the tip provides an echo that I can hear. The tactile feedback from vibrations of carpet versus concrete versus tile. It's all stuff that I appreciate, and a dog doesn't provide that. Plus, a cane is just far more low maintenance than a dog. If there's a blizzard out and it's 20 below, I still got to take Fido out to do his business. I still got to pay for vet bills and food. And again, I love dogs as a pet. My cat is well worth it, but it's just not the travel aid that I care to use.
Boy, I just learned something here. I just assumed the cane was to just see if there was anything in your way, blocking your way. But you say that you can sense things through the tapping and the echo.
It is. I mean, you're right as far as you go. The cane does tell me, where the door is, where a curb is, where a mailbox is. But also, we pay attention to things that you may not, notice. Like, did the vibration of my cane just tell me that I'm about to hit the grass, when I'm walking outside? Is there a stairway coming up? Is the floor going to change from carpet to tile? All of that comes through my cane. And I have to mention to you, there's a myth out there that blind people have heightened senses because we're blind, and that's a myth. That's not true. We just use our other senses like hearing and touch more than the average person, but it's nothing that you couldn't do, Tom, if you needed to.
Okay, so it's not a thing where your hearing or your taste or your smell is more in tune than mine might be.
We're not Daredevil. It's not like that. Or, those ridiculous where like a blind person could hear something 5 blocks away. That's nonsense. But we do pay more attention. It's just a matter of using a sense more. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, which is it's naturally there, the more developed it's going to get.
I would imagine that, you just talk about, listening and hearing it. I would imagine if you were like in a downtown situation, a busy traffic situation, and you couldn't see and you just heard all the cars and the traffic and everything, that's got to be rather scary.
It can be. But again, if you have skills training that you know what you're doing, I'll tell you, downtown is actually easier than you might think because a lot of downtown is controlled by traffic lights. So what you do as a blind guy is you walk up to an intersection and you have traffic that's going in front of you. When the traffic that is going in front of you or perpendicular stops and the traffic that's going parallel to you starts up, you know it's safe to cross. So you just listen to the automobile engines, and when the ones that are parallel with you go, then you go. I mean, I've lived in downtown Lincoln, and I went to downtown Denver a lot and did a lot of big city intersections and came through just fine because you know how to listen to the traffic and go with the traffic lights.
And a lot of the walk, don't walk signs now have audio signals.
They do. And there used to be some controversy about that in the blindness community because people would say, look, do we really need those? But probably more than not, they are helpful.
Last question, or second to last or third to last, as I always come up with something new.
Oh, sure.
You say you've been blind since birth.
Yes.
Or you have been blind since birth. I don't think you'd be lying about that.
Yeah.
So you've been blind since birth. I imagine as a child growing up then, you're getting all the training. You're getting the training about, reading Braille. You're getting the training about, how to maneuver with a cane and everything that goes along with that. After you reach a certain age, are there programs available for you to learn to adapt to the new technology, adapt to the new ways of doing things? Or
Yes.
Are you pretty much like, okay, you're 21, you're on your own now?
No. I mentioned it earlier, and I'll bring it back up again. They're having their 50th anniversary this year. It's the Nebraska Center for the Blind. That's located in Lincoln, Nebraska. As an adult, you could go through a 9-month training program. And if you need more than 9 months or less than 9 months, that's just a kind of a round number. You can go through and learn all kinds of skills from how to use technology, how to use a cane, how to travel independently, how to read Braille, how to live by yourself, do the ordinary home tasks that a lot of people assume blind people can't do. Do your own laundry, cook for yourself. There's even a shop class where you can learn to work with wood using tools like a bandsaw and a jointer and stuff like that. And that's part of the Nebraska Commission for the Blind, which is a state agency. And so if you are a person who is experiencing blindness, then contact the Nebraska Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and they will assist you. They'll open up a case with you, and they'll help you, whether it's finding employment, learning independent living skills, doing all kinds of stuff. And, of course, also reach out to us at Radio Talking Book. We'll connect you. If you miss the news you used to get from print media, we'll connect you there as well.
Okay, I lied. This is the last question. Throughout all of this process, all your life, has there been, I would imagine, and maybe way off, a time when you've just said, damn it, God, why me?
I did actually go through, and again, I'm glad you asked this question. A lot of blind people will shrug off that question and say, no, but the fact is a lot of us go through our periods. I went through mine in my early 20s when I met a girl online, and we clicked. We had incredible chemistry. And then she just was like, I can't do it, Ryan. I can't meet you. I can't handle the fact that you're blind. That sent me into a spiral of a depression. It hurt. And I went through the, why God, why'd you do this to me? And I got over it. I got over it about the time I met the National Federation of the Blind. And there's a bunch of blind people out there that are advocating for themselves. And the best way to move forward is to find community. And once I did that, I got over it. But yes, a lot of blind people, especially older blind people that lose their sight later, they go through that. And it's okay. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to be angry. What it's not okay to do is just wallow for years and to let yourself atrophy. That's the one thing I would encourage people is if you know people who are blind, or if you're going blind or dealing with it, deal with it. Don't just sit at home and just suffer. There's, find community. We're out here. We're here to help anybody that needs it.
All right, Ryan, thank you very much for your time, my friend.
Tom, it's been a pleasure.
I
Thank
found
you so much.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yep.
And hey, anytime you need a ride, just give me a call.
You got it. You got it.
Brought to you by Havana Garage. Havana Garage in the Old Market. Tell them you heard about it in the Becca's Talking podcast, and go and check it out for yourself. It's a great way to spend an evening in a nice atmosphere with some good people. Havana Garage. We'll see you next week with another episode of Becca's Talking. Bye, y'all.